So the real wargamer, back at the wargaming table with and back at Rebel Yell, and coming back to Rebel Yell fairly quickly. I thought I would try to throw out some commentary here. Let's see. What part of what prompted this, in addition to simply coming back to, really wanting to get back to this game so soon after breaking. But there was another thing, and that is I really don't think, as far as I can see, there aren't games like this anymore. And I have some reasons why, but they're really quite speculative, and so I won't. I'm not gonna. Not even gonna bring them up. Maybe I'm wrong, but I will say at this point that as far as I can see, we're not making games like this anymore. And I really wish we would. I mean, I really, really wish we would. And then that made me think of, well, what do I mean by that? I mean, what's here that prompts me to think that, to think that I really wish we had more games like this. So I thought I'd go through some basics here. For example, the maps. The game comes with, I think, 6. I'm not going to pull them out or do an inventory, but I think the game comes with 6 maps. They are fictitious maps. They are partially geomorphic. Yeah, I think they're partly geomorphic. So geomorphic. They are, and by the way, considering the complexity of the terrain represented, it actually turns out to be just about right for, or I should say effectively, it's right for the unit scale. Yeah, I'll say unit scale. So each of these unit chits is a company, basically. And what is the ground scale? Ground scale is... Why am I having trouble finding that again? All right. Where did I see the ground scale? The maps geomorphic, identified by a letter A through F. Yeah, that's 6 maps. Obviously set up in different configurations for the scenario. It's so funny that I don't see the ground scale. Anyways, ground scale seems about right. Well, from what my playing so far, I don't see anything outrageously off. Okay. I want geomorphic maps. I want composite terrain, and I want complex terrain. So what I don't, I don't care for historical maps. I guess that's, and I definitely don't care for simplified maps anymore with respect to terrain representation. So why is that? Primarily because, and I think that's, all right, let me finish this. I want maximum flexibility. Yeah, I guess flexibility is the way to put it. I want maximum flexibility. And what does that mean to me? That means I want to get between the maps, and I'll get to the units next, between the maps and the units, the counters. I want to get the maximum number of possible, play configurations, etc., etc. So what don't you get? Well, obviously, when you have a historical map, you're severely limiting your flexibility. I'm not saying that just because you have one historical map, you only have one game. I'm not saying that, but I am saying you have one map of, I don't know, a part of Gettysburg. Well, there's only so many different, and there aren't many different ways of using that map terrain. So I want maximum flexibility, and now go to the units. So these units are very, I'll call them universal. For some people, they're bland. I just don't see that, but they're universal units. They are not they're not supposed to be one particular, historical company of a particular regiment, of a particular brigade, division, so on and so forth. Again, I want maximum flexibility. If I have a counter mix that is the order of battle for some particular formation in a particular time, again, severely limits the flexibility I want. So I want the most flexible maps with, frankly, the most flexible force makeups or orders of battle. And that to me means universal pieces, universal leaders. That's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I value. And that does not seem to be the trend that we're in right now. The trend right now seems to be the exact opposite of that. But again, can't really say why or what the details are about that. It's just what I'm seeing. So this is a mid-1990s game. Actually, it's a mid-1990s game, I think, in many respects. Not just with respect to the maps and the unit counters. Okay, the sequence of play, the turn structure. Now, no, it has to do with the maps and the counters. See, these are things that I'm learning. These are things with respect to what I prefer. I certainly did not know any of this when I started a few years back, wargaming regularly here. I just didn't know, and in some cases, I thought I preferred something very different than what I'm saying here. With respect to turn structure, I think I'm now tending to prefer two models, and there's a third model that I don't prefer anymore. And let me say, mechanics-wise, I've mentioned this at least once before. I'll go ahead and say it again, because I was reading a particular very popular game series the other day, reading the rule book, and yeah, I know I no longer prefer kind of long, convoluted, very involved turn structures with chit pull and beyond that. I mean, not just chit pull, but even beyond that, different mechanics for getting that type of, I guess, unpredictability in play and in action. But no, I think I'm tending to prefer two. One I'll call the Death Ride Curse DRK style. That I definitely remember seeing this very clearly with that rule set. Not used very often, as far as I can tell. I should say, so far in my experience. Probably should say that. So far in my experience, not a lot of games use this, but the DRK, what I'm calling the DRK model, is you have a large main turn segment, phase, whatever you want to call it, where I, as the player, I can do basically almost whatever I want within confines of the rules. I can do it in any order. Yeah. So why do I like that? I like that. Well, no. Wait. Let me add the other one, and then I'll go to why I think I like these. So the other one I like, which is the model that this game uses, but this is definitely not the only one. There are definitely, I can think of some, definitely some other games. Well, actually, like the Iron Cross, but this model is the turn is broken up into a large number of very discrete segments or pieces, generally meaning that in that piece or segment you're doing just one general kind of action, but you have multiple opportunities to do those generally in the turn, and then how they interact between one player and the other player. So in the first one with the DRK model, the open play kind of the player chooses kind of the main turn structure. You get a lot of, I think, intense interplay with what's happening, the action, and you also get that with the what I'll call the exploded turn model, where you take the turn and you explode it into, multiple move pieces or segments, multiple fire segments, maybe multiple rallies, sections, whatever the main mechanics are. Okay. I think why do I gravitate towards these two models now? Right. With the DRK model, I don't want to know whether it's the phase to do something. No, that's not a good way to put it. Good way to put it is, I'll decide what I want to do, and then I'll use the rules to execute it in that order that I envision. That's the DRK. That DRK model supports that. In the exploded turn sequence model, maybe it's the quick pace of different kinds of decisions made at a fairly fast tempo or pace, and it's clear what you're doing. Yeah. All right. This game, Rebel Yell uses the programmed instruction, which I actually found to be quite successful. My experience was quite successful with it. Great things to pull me back into this game. Everything I covered in the first 3 modules, meaning the different kinds of fire, advanced fire, en passant fire, regimental flags, command control, even the command control I like. The command control seems to be fairly strict here, which is what I would expect. My eyebrows would raise if I saw the command control system too liberal here, but it's not. It seems to be really conservative, really constraining, and that's again what I would expect for this historical time period. Leaders, sure. Didn't get to execute any bayonet charges yet, but I'm ready for that. Now in Module 4 rules, what I'm going to get to now, this is the accompanying scenarios from Belmont, Battle of Belmont. We're going to get to the infantry line subformation, something I've basically been waiting for since I started. I'm going to get to that stand to maneuver versus stand to fire. So that's going to be great. And because we're going to have the different subformations, then we're going to get into different minimum fire zones. Yeah. And then we're going to add a little bit more for the division leaders, which will be good. So I guess now I'll talk about the gameplay. So I think from a distance, the gameplay can appear, okay, it can appear sterile. It can appear kind of grinding. It can appear repetitive. And it's funny because all those three things could probably be said about the Death Ride, Kursk, Salerno, the Death Ride series as well. How interesting. My argument, my point here is that is really deceptive. I grant it, but it's really deceptive. And I think that when you're playing, the detail draws you in, and I'm able to do fairly well visualizing the terrain, visualizing the units. Even one of these counters being anywhere from 50 to 100 soldiers, that is very, very, what's the word? That's able to be visualized very, very, very easily, from experience, I mean. And so when I'm going through firing to no effect, taking enemy fire, checking morale, becoming disorganized, taking an organization hit, all of these things, and a lot of it is, again, it's able to be visualized. It draws me in, and it's what I want. It's what I'm after. And I do think there are many, well, I don't want to limit my comments to the size of the battles, because you could get, you could pull out the whole counter mix here on both sides and have a very large battle, but that's not the point. The point is when you have multiple formations, regiments in this case, made up of all of the constituent companies that are able to obviously operate independently with lots of fire, return fire, what you would call opportunity fire, but this game doesn't use that term. It becomes meaningful. It becomes meaningful. I don't know. I'm not sure there's a better way to put it. I mean, would it become meaningful if this was so-called historical terrain represented on the map? I guess I'm not finding that. And does it become more, compelling just because there's a chit for Colonel so-and-so, historical figure, unit by historical designation? I'm just not finding that. And finally, I should point out that there's literally more than you see on the board here. Remember, there's the individual, regimental morale, individual regimental morale, and then eventually we're going to get into different weapon types. The brigade leaders are going to have variable command radius. So you add on all these layers, and there's more going on here than you see on the tabletop.